So, remember Phineas and Ferb? You know, that popular Disney Channel cartoon about the two boys that build inventions every day during their summer with a subplot about their pet platypus going on secret missions every episode to fight some triangle-nosed scientist? Probably. But if you read this title, you might be wondering, wait, Wakster, how in hillbilly heck does Phineas and Ferb have to do with a Thomas YouTuber? To that I say, literally everything. So, this guy, Trainboy54, you might have heard of him, or maybe not. But he was one of the earliest Thomas and Friends internet personalities from the early 2010s or so, getting traction from young, impressionable fans. On the flip side, some other Blue Train aficionados hate this dude for, let's just say, his unique content.
Wow, I always wanted to see what Odor is like.
With all this ridicule building up over the years, despite being talked much less now, I feel like this guy right here is talked about negatively by most Thomas fans. So today I'm here to make a big and embarrassing confession. Get ready for this. I used to love Trainboy54. Emphasis on used to, because a long time ago, I liked the dude's work because he did stuff for the two kids shows I was into from 2010 to 2013 or so. But obviously, I grew out of him as soon as I found new interests as usual. I did try watching some of his content with my friends a while back as a joke to have a laugh, and boy, they didn't age very well. And today I hope to shed some light on his content, the good, the bad, and the cringy? Given most, if not all the coverage of his content on the internet is in a somewhat negative light by people who dislike him, I am here to make this video to give a fair, balanced, and honest opinion on this dude from someone who liked Trainboy54's content once upon a time. As well as to give more insight into the insanity of Trainboy54 in an in-depth fashion with enough positive and negative remarks, without delving into a raging mess like early Nostalgia Critic or, you know, any of his early 2010s knockoffs for that matter. I will make this video more on the general series of videos instead of the overall history. As, unlike James Farr, who I covered in my last Thomas video, some of Trainboy54's videos are mostly lost from his early years, so pinning down each respective year would be a big hassle unless I, you know, had some sort of time machine. And to make this video hopefully accurate, I managed to contact Trainboy54's old collaborator, Ackley Attack TV, to ensure that information I show regarding the drama and past is accurate and not misconstrued. As such, screenshots of Ackley's messages and descriptions will show up when needed. Anywho, I know what we're gonna do today. Everyone whip out your PNF soundtrack CDs and player rail or Trackmaster collections, because this video is going to be very bizarre. And I apologize for the amount of cringe this video will radiate, but let's do this because I have a very shocking twist to discuss in relation to this man. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and let's jump straight right in. Unlike the aforementioned James Farr, Trainboy54's legacy is pretty much unknown, barring some details left over from random occurrences online. The man behind the channel? John McDowell. A tame and passionate man indeed, but all who seems to have recorded his videos in a rather big yet ominously lit dingy room for the past decade and a half, making videos on Trackmaster or Player Thomas the Tank Engine content, among other things. Before Ackley contacted me, the only source I could get to his birth date is that a Tumblr post from 2013 on this site says John was roughly 20 at the time of this post upload, making him roughly born in 1992. I was willing to brush this off as a rumor so I could move on, but after talking to Ackley on this, he did confirm John was born on November 12, 1992, meaning that as of this video, he is currently 32 years old. Based on his channel intro with a bit crushed copy of the Justice League Unlimited team, and also such inspiring words like excitement, courage, honor, romance, and triumph. John seems extremely familiar with children's media popular or made around the 90s to 2000s era. His old video intro from 2011 gives it away really. Stuff like Barney, Jim Carrey's Grinch movie, The Wiggles, Wow Wow Wubsy, Drake and Josh, and the live-action Alvin and the Chipmunks. Other miscellaneous footage includes among some older content like Dumbo, Abbott and Costello, or even obscure stuff like The Upside Down Show and The Dangerous Brothers. Though if you were quick to guess, it's no secret as to what I left out specifically. A very popular preschool train show and a famous Disney cartoon that gained immense fame. That's right! Chuggington and Gravity Falls! Other than Thomas and Friends becoming a large hit with children and merchandise and marketing around the late 2000s, early 2010s, during an otherwise shallow era, Disney Television Animation's biggest hit around that same time frame, Phineas and Ferb, was also a smash hit with not just children, but adults and teens as well. Obviously, I know Thomas aimed for the same thing too, as the Reverend Audrey's original Railway series books were aiming for all audiences. But I think PNF's success with modern general audiences should be noted too, as both Phineas and Ferb and Thomas seem to be two sides of the same coin in attracting similar crowds. I think many people, John and myself included, love Phineas and Ferb because I found that the cartoon is not just pretty funny as a comedy, but also filled with a ton of memorable characters and interesting plots. Even if the show is extremely formulaic in a bulk of its run, I do have a ton of fondness and respect for this show, even if Phineas and Ferb is not really my favorite Disney cartoon anymore. That doesn't discount how good PNF is. It's just that even if it holds up pretty dang well, I personally wouldn't call it my favorite of the DTVA library. Even with that mention, I applaud Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh for making a piece of kids entertainment that I can find funny and memorable even today, paving the way for other cartoons in the same company to reach similar heights and success with sometimes better quality. And as I rewatched Phineas and Ferb last year on Disney+, I can confirm that. Given John was roughly 15 years old when Phineas and Ferb first dropped in 2007, he was among one of the older kids or teens who found out about the cartoon and loved it. I was 2 years old when it first dropped, but I still caught the show when I was roughly 4 in 2009, when the show was still relevant. And since YouTube's cartoon community was taking off and Thomas and Friends' booming YouTube fanbase scene was popping up, John was definitely in the right place and time for him to start his own channel. Records of his old channel's creation have been deleted for reasons I'll get into later. Ackley Attack did recall John starting his channel in 2009, so roughly around the same time Phineas and Ferb Season 2 and Thomas and Friends Season 13 started to debut. With that said, John began to upload multiple different series of YouTube videos for both fan bases. While mostly Thomas-centric, I will confirm that Phineas and Ferb is a big part of the channel, and boy oh, it's gonna be a very wild trip. To start off very simple and less bonkers, fans like me collectively know this channel is focused primarily on content related to Tomy Playrel and Trackmaster Thomas and Friends merchandise. Trainboy54 has amassed quite the collection of motorized train toys under that wing, ranging from old and new releases, and even recently including all engines go merchandise. I have no idea how much specifically he has, but I think John has a pretty large mass of Playrel and Trackmaster sets, rolling stock, and engines in this dimly lit room. A room whose layout I'm convinced barely changed over the last decade and a half, other than some bits and bobs. Though the very pool table John uses to showcase his toys is the one thing that constantly changes on a regular basis. A big hobby John partakes in is the customizing of Thomas merchandise. Often he'd make customs out of his spare motorized toys, likely found cheap from thrift shops or eBay. The amount of customs he makes ends up doubling his collection count by a dozen. Speaking of custom toys, the Thomas-centric ones he makes range from being pretty darn good to, very bizarre. For one, he did make some rainbow variants of certain characters, or even ghost engines using the Trackmaster plastic bubbles, like the ones that hold the toy on the box. Another chunk of customs end up being very good on the contrary, especially newer ones within the past couple of years or so. Fan-made models based on Railway series or Thomas characters with missing Trackmaster models like Spamcan, Fergus, Victoria, Frida, Duchess of Hamilton, and Rajiv were made. Minor paint upgrades on certain Trackmaster releases like Lexi or Ashima are pretty nice lookers, considering the toys came out in an era when Mattel was cutting back on paint detail for the Thomas merch. In a vacuum, when he closely makes Thomas adjacent customs, John has talent. Nothing that great compared to the more professional custom makers in the fandom today, but John did have a lot of talent in making these sorts of customs. And then you have to remember I specified closely Thomas adjacent customs because... Finally, time for me to not run away from one of the reasons people hate this guy. The customs of various fictional characters as Thomas engines, either using printed stickers taken from screenshots for faces or dismantled Pez dispenser tops. Among these various different crossover customs included characters from media like Marvel, Lego, My Little Pony, Wow Wow Wubsy, The Wiggles, and even Disney characters. Among the roster of Disney characters included, yes, you guessed it, Phineas and Ferb customs. And to list off the characters he made from that show, these include Vanessa Doofenshmirtz, Phineas, Ferb, Candace, Stacy, Isabella, all of the Fireside Girls, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, Baljeet, Buford, Django, and Mishti. Lesser known characters John has made into toys were two of Candace's friends, namely Jeremy Johnson as shown in one of his episodes, Vanessa, Charlie, and Candy, and another one of Candace's best friends, Jenny. A Mavis custom who appeared in his Thanksgiving special, Thomas and Jenny, as well as one of his 2020 videos, which was the top 20 yellow characters. Allegedly a Perry the Platypus custom supposedly was made using a Playrel birdie, but images of that custom have been lost to the sands of time. These Phineas and Ferb customs are probably the biggest set of characters Trainboy54 is known for in terms of fan-made material, which isn't surprising given the concept of it, because what kind of insane person would make Disney TVA characters into talking vehicles? Oh, wait. Not implying crossover designs of pre-existing characters are a bad thing. Other than the Motor City X Cars stuff I just showed, Mega the Hedgehog X's Sonic the Hedgehog X Thomas customs are actually pretty decent. But I think they aren't as hated because they at least try to make the designs fit into the Thomas art style with custom faceplate graphics for the Sonic cast. Granted, Mega the Hedgehog X is a much newer custom builder, and John probably didn't have access to high-end editing equipment outside of Microsoft Paint as he describes. But if John had better editing software, I think he could pull off custom faces instead of like taking screenshots and shoving it on an engine. Though on the topic of this, I actually redesigned his Phineas and Ferb Thomas customs a while back, with unique engine classes and more Thomas-like faces. And when Ackley Attack replied on Twitter, he actually got Trainboy54 to see my designs as he used to work with him, with John mentioning I did a good job based on this tweet. So, Trainboy54, if you're even watching this, thanks for checking out my art and appreciating it. It's been an honor, but back on track. The PNF Train Gang are also well known by the TTE fandom because these characters showed up in Trainboy54's very own Thomas series, which is an entire separate menagerie of a rabbit hole from this. So, the Tomy Trackmaster TNF series is Trainboy54's flagship YouTube series. It consists of episodes featuring his motorized Thomas collection with his Phineas and Ferb crossover characters thrown in, given that it was seemingly his second favorite cartoon. Unlike his Adventures of Phineas and Ferb series, which I'll get to later on, this series as of now has 75 whopping episodes, with what I'm seeing about 5 episodes for the odd number seasons and 8 episodes for the even numbered seasons, alongside 42 shorts, not including the specials, most of which have been lost except some recent ones, and a so-called movie where John follows the Pooh's Adventures route of adding Thomas characters into the PC game Disney's Villain Revenge, which he did put back up in the early 2010s and was gone when his second channel got terminated, but thankfully was rediscovered and re-uploaded nearly a decade later, including the entire movie that Ackley posted back a few years ago, to which he did beforehand with one special, Expedition Thomas, as well as the recent Christmas special, Isabella's Nutcracker, which, at the time of this writing, Part 1 is up, and according to Ackley, Part 2 is still currently in production and was supposed to be out by December of this year. But given the slow production time on John's part, it may get delayed to the following year, as was stated in the update video John posted back a few months ago. And I hope it at least comes out before GTA 6. Or whatever the 4th Bioshock is. Or the 3rd Half-Life. And to call these videos original fan content would be a big fat lie. One thing I noticed upon rewatching these episodes is that they're either rewrites of Thomas and Friends episodes with different characters, replacing ones already in the episode, or plagiarized from different Thomas fan videos and other media. To quick-fire the more notable ones, the episode Gordon and Thomas seems to be a role reversal of Thomas and Gordon. Thomas vs. Ferb directly rips off YouTuber Miss Oliver and Blossom's TNF episode, The Grand Fight.
Duck and James were sent to the repairs. They also had to get to therapy because they were knocked on the head so hard they thought they were the famous comedians Abbott and Costello.
Thomas and Ferb were sent to the Sodor Steamworks for repairs. They also had to get to therapy for themselves. Because they fought their smoke boxes so hard, they thought they were the famous comedians Abbott and Costello.
Thomas and Buford seems to be like the beginning of the Thomas special Hero of the Rails, with Thomas racing Buford instead of Spencer. Rosie Goes Fishing being like Thomas Goes Fishing, with Rosie replacing Thomas. Oliver Strikes Out being similar to the infamous Hit Era episode Edward Strikes Out, with Oliver being the one to hate Rocky instead of Old Iron himself. An episode titled Hector the Horrid plays out the same plot from the actual Hit Era episode of the same name, but swaps Rosie and Thomas's roles and adds in the Danville Locos. Part 2 of the episode, all put together, directly copies parts of the Thomas episode, The Deputation. The episode, The Phineas and Ferb Way, is almost identical to the Brenner era episode, The Thomas Way, with Phineas and Ferb in the place of Duck. The episode Toby in the Blues is very similar to the Phineas and Ferb episode entitled Cheer Up Candace in terms of plot. And finally, the short Date Night is a remake of the episode Date Night from the web series Homestar Runner, with Thomas, Candace, Percy, and Stacy replacing Homestar, Strong Bad, The Cheat, and Marzipan respectively. Right down to copying the ending of one of the main characters trying to stop a romantic date with a nuclear missile. Another interesting point of note is some of the song choices in these videos. For example, the aforementioned Hector the Horrid episode has a track in the bit where Rosie cleans Hector, which came from a Disney Princess album, of all places.
And I won't given.
Specifically the song I've Got My Eyes on You, which Jasmine sang in the direct-to-video feature Disney Princess Enchanted Tales. Other notable musical oddities is how Sheryl Crow's Real Gone, famous for being in Disney Pixar's Cars, wasn't Thomas and Buford, or even how Toby and the Jet Engine having a parody of the Sonic Saturday AM theme song called Toby the Steam Jet.
Who's that speeding down the line? Toby the steam jet, so super fast that no engine can go. Toby the steam jet.
I wish I was making this up if I had to. Other than these music choices, obviously a ton of Thomas and Friends music were used, usually sourced from fan-made instrumentals from way back in the fandom's early days, as well as music from TTTE movies like Thomas and the Magic Railroad or Misty Island Rescue. Oh hey, fun fact, the amount of copyrighted music, Thomas or otherwise, got so overloaded that John decided to redub the music with beatboxing like he's Mr. 50K to bypass YouTube's copyright system. And I think it ended up making his videos funnier. However, this mass deletion ended up making some videos lost media, like The Wizard of Odor, which is a parody of The Wizard of Oz, following Phineas and Ferb's parody, The Wizard of Odd, in terms of structure. But Ackley managed to send me the script he worked on years ago with Trainboy54 for that said special, in not only how part 1 was played out, which was re-uploaded at the time of this video's release, but also the scripts for the lost parts 2 and 3, and their links will be in the description. Honestly, I can see the effort into these videos, as poorly aged they may seem. But I can see the cracks, as I think John had zero writing experience as he resorted to making spoofs of either Thomas's episodes that already exist, or episodes from other media and fan content. There are some original episodes, like the aforementioned Expedition Thomas, feels like he took the concept of a Thomas the Tank Engine special and made his own, while also trying to be faithful to the original Disney World attraction it was loosely based off of. But even then, that's a big minority. Though, from what I've seen, originality may or may not be something Trainboy54 is good at when it comes to his Tama series. But if you think that doesn't sound bad enough, well, wait till you see what he's whipped up with his other videos. Other than the quote-unquote original episodes he made, John also made remakes of various Thomas and Friends episodes, which, while essentially sharing the same darn purpose as the fan episodes by remaking a story, John actually used the show audio for these remakes. The camera quality and production value is otherwise the same, but sometimes there are some discrepancies between episodes that he chooses to remake. One specific instance is whenever Sir Topham Hatt likes to show up to give an engine their job. Rather than having Sir Topham Hatt's blue car, John likes to have him enter by riding on board Hero. Though in some remakes and original episodes, the blue car does appear. However, it's subbed by a die-cast of Doc Hudson from Pixar's Cars. What? Was the car too hard to find on the aftermarket? Well, it seems like he did learn to buy that piece of merchandise recently, as a remake of the Miller Era episode, Slippy Sodor, uploaded in 2024, used the Ertl version of Sir Topham Hatt's car. Characters and other material from later Thomas seasons are also a common occurrence. Other than the Hero example I just mentioned, his Gordon and the Famous Visitor remake has streamlined Gordon from the Great Race instead of adding in City of Churro like it was in the original episode. The only change I've seen in his videos that actually made sense and added to the original was his remake of Thomas and the Breakdown Train, having James in a black and red livery to reflect the version of the story as shown in the Railway series and later The Adventure Begins. Plus, it's not just the episode remakes he's done individually. He's even took the time to put together some new episode remake marathons on his channel, to which back then, he would usually post his videos around 10 to 15 minutes. Which, believe it or not, was YouTube's old time limits back in the day. But it's hard to believe he is long overdue to upload longer videos now, and this is what he came up with. You can tell from what he's been posting, Trainboy54 was at least trying to provide some material in working with trying to remake the Thomas episodes to a T, whether it be from the classic model era or in the CGI era, he still wants to add his own little touch to them to make it his own, which isn't saying much in the long run. So, now we get into the good stuff, in quotations. The meat and potatoes of strange early 2010s cartoon fandom culture. Everybody, welcome to Trainboy54's Adventures of Phineas and Ferb, his fan-made series on that other cartoonist channel is focused on. And to say it's not very 2010s low-quality cartoon fandom YouTube wouldn't do it justice. Because it practically is. These videos involve John McDowell himself superimposed and cut into various Phineas and Ferb episodes, with captions being placed on footage to indicate when characters in the show are speaking to John. Yes, this was a self-insert sort of thing. While I can see this as some sort of wish fulfillment that, let's be real, young me probably would have done if I had access to decent editing software. But this series gives similar vibes to those old Pooh's Adventures videos from early YouTube. So for those not aware, Pooh's Adventures was a series of crossovers using spliced footage with cross-series interactions being made via captions, and sometimes having their creators in the video. Sound familiar? Though if I delve deeper into this rabbit hole that is this, I'd probably be here all day. So just watch other videos on this cursed topic if you're morbidly curious. These videos, I guess, often featured John in various situations woven into the plot in varying levels of decency through occasionally Ackley Attack, the old friend of his kind enough to give me a lot of information for making this video, and showed up on camera to record skits, though it's explicitly clear he's in a different room from John. It's not just Ackley Attack who appeared in it as well. Many other YouTubers used to be a part of John's Phineas and Ferb series. One big example is that one Thomas YouTuber named I Love Trains 323 actually appeared in a good number of episodes, with John giving him a train sona based on Flynn the Fire Truck, which I find uniquely bizarre. Not just that, but also a few others as well, like Tuckinator15, who has been in a Thomas train sona of himself, similar to Ackley sometime later. One of Trainboy54's other older collaborators, named The Cool Man, appeared for one episode, according to an old archive compilation posted onto Vimeo. And speaking of Ackley Attack, two of his own collaborators themselves appeared in this too, such as his friend Sam the Thomas Fan 1, and his girlfriend as of now, Casta Melody. But unfortunately, those episodes the two of them appeared in are no longer viewable at this current time. Let's not forget to mention, in a few last chunk of episodes before quitting the series entirely, John decided that it would be a good idea to try to mimic Shining Time Station, the American TV show that was used as a framing device for Thomas episodes when it first hit Western shores, and add in the Thomas episodes within the Phineas and Ferb episodes he was already putting himself into.
Some people sometimes feel annoyed, bossy, rude, and complaining about things. Even some friends of mine on the island of Sodor. But you'll never know how troubled things can get. Like for instance, that time Thomas took those freight cars.
Apparently, an overwhelming majority of the series has been lost to the reaches of time, as Disney themselves took down Trainboy54 for using their footage from DTVA without much modification. So not much is really known about which or how many episodes John has made, or at least until Ackley Attack told me. One of the messages I got from Ackley said he did have an earlier account which was used to upload a copy of the Phineas and Ferb movie Across the Second Dimension to YouTube as a reaction vid during its release in August 2011, which that upload got the old channel taken down. If that doesn't sound like John committing yet another case of piracy and copyright infringement, given what he's done with his Phineas and Ferb series, I don't know what will. But hey, at least I watched Across the Second Dimension when it first aired on Disney Channel, not through a third-party upload on YouTube. Unlike his Thomas series, John made 72 videos in this series, with only 10 episodes each for the first 7 seasons, and only 2 for season 8, before John called it quits, which, if lined up with the actual Phineas and Ferb cartoon, means he covered a decent batch of episodes ranging from Season 1 and the beginning of Season 2 up until the episode Phineas and Ferb's Quantum Boogaloo. Allegedly, he even did a number of episodes from Season 3, but I can't confirm because those are currently lost in the sands of time as well. His PNF series, regardless of what everyone has to say about it, did gain a lot of popularity on John's channel for a few years now. But sadly, all good things must come to an end, because John decided to end his PNF series around 2014, mainly because, according to a lost video announcing the retirement of it, it was mainly because one of the episodes, which I think was episode 40, got taken down by Disney TVA and gave him a strike on the channel. And as such, John never made any more videos of his adventures with the two stepbrothers ever since. In retrospect, it's rather sad these aren't fully archived because somehow I found these videos to be kind of funny out of context.
It's a glorious day for mankind.
More likely, this is a glorious day for train people.
And even if these videos radiate what the internet at large dubs cringe, these videos remind me of an early time on YouTube when people, Thomas fans included, just put out anything, even if it was low quality. Trains wasn't as detailed graphically as it was today, and most custom makers or fan episode writers haven't mastered the skills yet. But these videos, alongside the previous Tomy Thomas TNF series, give a vibe of internet innocence before we truly knew as a fanbase what was considered great. Granted, obviously the new stuff in the fanbase now is leagues better in terms of production and writing quality, but I can't deny that we wouldn't have gotten this far right now if it weren't for videos like this. Wait, why did this video get deep again? Alongside the sectors of content I just discussed, John did more than just that. Starting off, he did reviews of Season 3 and 4 Phineas and Ferb episodes when they first came out, presumably to substitute for the premature ending of the series I just talked about earlier. He would then later do the same thing for not just a couple movies sometime later, like his reviews on the Disney Plus exclusive PNF movie Candace Against the Universe, or the live-action Beauty and the Beast remake, but he's also reviewed many episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic alongside its movie from 2017. Outside of the channel, he's even done some voiceover work in the past with other YouTubers, with two of the biggest ones he did being in a couple of episodes of Thomas the Trackmaster show created by Rama Fool, where he played both Victor and Kevin.
This will teach you a lesson.
Boss, that hurts! Stop it! Oh man, someone help me!
Which those were deleted by him and later recovered by Thomas Fandom Archive. And also in an episode of the Thomas the Tank Engine show created by Madeline Farms, which was entitled The Jet Engine, to which he played the same two characters I just mentioned.
Go, you're all fixed.
Thanks, dude.
Hey, boss, did that jet engine you ordered come today?
Jet engine? What's a jet engine?
It's some kind of engine that makes you go really fast when...
Another voice role John did appear was as Jackaroo in the Cool Man's Tank Engine Chad and Friends.
I deserve all the credit. Chad and Johnny couldn't free the pumpkins from the mud, so I came unexpectedly to the rescue.
Which was a Thomas fan series made with MS Paint assets similar to other works like Jack and Friends or City Trams, the latter of which I do have plans for, so don't you worry. And since I mentioned Ackley Attack, John also appeared in a good chunk of his videos on Ackley's channel, whether it be as other characters or as himself on occasion, just to name a few. I know some of you may think I should talk about Ackley in his own separate video, but I don't have plans for that for the time being. To say that John's acting style is good in not just his videos on his channel, but in other videos done by other people, well...
Actor that I like better is Adam Sandler. I remember seeing him in Click. With the remote, he changed into different colors.
Let's just say I think he needs some practice. I'm sure there are other videos done by other creators John was in, like redubs, episodes, and other videos on the side, but the ones I've mentioned are the best that I can find. He also made a ton of songs, including, and most infamously of all, a spoof of the Thomas song, Really Useful Engine, called He's Phineas and Ferb's Best Friend, and it's quite the sight to behold.
He's Phineas and Ferb's best friend, you know. He may be helpful, but he never loses. Stand back in amazement and watch him in action. He's a friend to all of us we adore.
I'll personally admit this video is funny for all the wrong reasons indeed, and it's also sorta questionable. Like, John says in the song,
He's Phineas and Ferb's best friend, you know. 'Cause he told Phineas and Ferb that so.
So would that make their friendship non-consensual if the friendship is started by some dude going up to two kids saying that they're their best friend? Wait, no, that sounds wrong out of context! Looking back, this video is probably one of the things, if not the thing, John is known for in not just Thomas circles, but also outside the fan base, as the video ended up getting into the crosshairs of famous YouTubers such as Oni Plays and Salty DK Dan. Yes, I am dead serious.
What is this?
He's Phineas and Ferb's best friend, you know.
Trainboy. All of these people are gonna get bullied.
Train with guitar? But how does he play it? Out of all of the things in this video, this is the thing that I choose to focus on.
Back to Sometime, there are some other songs he wrote that aren't as well known. One being a cover of the song Lots and Lots of Trains from James Coffey, set to Thomas footage.
Lots and lots of trains coming round the bend and heading down the track.
Though for some reason not every clip is timed properly, which given John's skill set I am not surprised. Another song in the backlot was Trainopus, which was a parody of Perry the Platypus's Agent P theme song, which I can say with utmost confidence that this is the closest sequel to the Best Friend song he did.
He's looking real sharp in Odor engine 4.
That should be about it really. So let's finally dive into the big spot of trouble that Trainboy54 got into, and to clear some stuff up. Oh boy, this is gonna be interesting for me to talk about because, let's face it, I have zero experience with covering internet drama, but I will try to be as respectful as I humanly could. There's no turning back now, so as much as John's videos are loved by many young Thomas fans from the early 2010s, there were tons upon tons of others who would criticize him and what he's posting on his channel, and I think we need to address those concerns right away. For starters, from my understanding, the one thing John did which got him criticized in the first place was that a lot of people were saying that for the alleged doxing on himself that he did, with some conflicting rumors saying that trolls hacked his account and found his address. All these rumors seem to circulate around the internet in dude trust me type moments, with barely anything concrete to back it up on the internet, especially since a lot of his old videos have been taken down. That was until I got this message by Ackley Attack. This very message. To explain properly, Ackley said that John did dox himself, but not for malicious reasons. Based on Ackley's first-hand account on the matter, John apparently did a Q&A response video on one of his old channels, which was sadly no longer available due to his original account and the second channel, the new Trainboy54, getting terminated because of copyright as suspected. And at the end of the video, John shared a screenshot of Google Maps showing where he lives and even revealing his home address for the public to see, all on this one video he posted. That was quite surprising when Ackley first told me this, because I honestly couldn't believe it myself. It wouldn't be until 1 year later in 2012, around the time both John and Ackley got into massive drama, where it escalated in the long run, as through his home address that John just posted, His own hatedom and trolls managed to find his phone number as well, and even got to do a bunch of prank calls, especially old YouTuber, the Blackbuster Critic, who's done a video where he actually called John while playing over an episode of his Phineas and Ferb series. Also, numerous internet users, mostly from now defunct channels that were deleted, made vulgar reactions against John, with one I do remember saying he is worse than Ebola and cancer. Yeah, you can see that many were upset. I can see why people hate him given his concept seemed very bizarre, especially with some of the crossover aspects, but it wasn't like John did anything particularly horrible. But there's more to it than just that. Another controversy happened, which involved one of his episodes of his own Tomy series, back around 2019, when John released an episode titled Helpful Henry. And while I did mention the material John ripped off to make the episode, it wasn't just that, nor even having the characters in it being out of character. And from what Ackley informed me about, it actually involves a voice actor playing a character in this episode. The episode involved Harvey the Crane Engine, which around that time was voiced by Jelly Toy Productions.
Oh, it was horrible. I can't take it. I can't help them while they're treating me like this.
For a while, the episode is what it is given to, what I've mentioned. It received tons of backlash, particularly on Jelly Toy's portrayal of Harvey in it, with tons of comments all over saying that his voice work was dissatisfactory or just plain terrible. Some comments reportedly having criticism for giving Harvey a Scottish accent. On the flip side, Jelly Toy Productions, however, responded to a good number of comments defending himself, saying that he's making the character his own to no avail, with many people calling him out for being a white knight to Trainboy54, which currently is going on to this day, even with some of John's recent videos. You can judge for yourself, but given what we're seeing here, I'm sure you can take this with a grain of salt. Even after said incident and the plethora of infamy he gained in the Thomas fandom in the past, he does get some hate these days. And from my personal experience on the Twitter Thomas community, most of the posts pertaining to John have been super negative. The craziest bit of recent content related to Trainboy54 in the fandom was, get this, an entire Five Nights at Freddy's fan game by Game Jolt FNAF developer Albino Black Bear and Bonnie's Barnyard creator Odus Laputis, called Trainboy54's Torment. And honestly, it's practically impossible given that there are zero instructions given on how to beat the darn thing. And even the gameplay footage of people playing this thing shows how hard it is or how poorly explained the thing was. There are also rumors online as well about a chatlog between both John and Ackley that got leaked online, where it was alleged that John wanted Ackley Attack to dress up as Isabella from Phineas and Ferb for a video he wanted to do, but backed at last minute, which was brought up in a video posted by Headbanger142 back in 2012. But however, it was confirmed in Ackley's response video 12 years later that this particular chatlog was all a ruse made by some haters to bring both John and Ackley down, with Ackley later confirming to me that all that was fake was indeed fake. Though on the topic of Ackley cross-dressing as a female character, he'd do exactly that more recently. To which, say what you will about them, but Ackley's cosplays did land him some awards and conventions, so good for him if you ask me. So given his response to the alleged chatlog, again, it's just rumors as we speak. But if you think that's bad enough, trust me, it gets worse from there. Based on my personal memory of Trainboy54 alongside some friends' accounts of John when they watched his channel as a kid, John also had crushes on both Vanessa Doofenshmirtz and Sunset Shimmer in a couple of videos that he posted, which were considered lost. And, well, for the fact that they're both cartoon characters that aren't real and are 16 to 17, as well as John being currently in his 30s, it sounds pretty creepy and somewhat gross to some extent. Though, personally, I doubt John would be identified as one of those people. Doing research with the whole doxing incident and this specific thing made me realize that John actually has a lack of self-awareness and zero social cues. I can go on and on about all of this as there's a whole lot more I couldn't mention right here, but those are the ones I can recall and are important enough to be in the video without bloating the runtime. Whatever you may say, the controversies revolving around Trainboy54 is just insane, and a part of me, I do see where everyone who's made videos about him are coming from, but other times I felt he hasn't done anything legitimately terrible aside from just making weird videos and some questionable editing choices. Not to mention for the fact that John never in the slightest listened to any of the criticisms he's been getting in his videos all the time, given for the way that after several years, and unlike other Thomas Fandom creators, John never really changed his content since he first started at the very beginning of his online career. And plus, in a couple of videos that Ackley has done revolving around the drama he and John got into, the former did state the terrible things that happened from his point of view at the time, and he did apologize for his actions and managed to change things up since then. Which thankfully, he has done and continued flowing with his channel today. But it is hard to say what John has to say, or if he apologized for his actions as well, which again, we should take with a grain of salt. So, given to what we're seeing right here, and that's to name a few from what I can gather, I'm certain you can judge for yourself, and this guy clearly has been through a lot, and yet, I don't think he even realizes it as we speak. So, what do I think of this humble guy in general? As shocking as it might sound, I don't think Trainboy54 is 100% a terrible person, or even one of the worst Thomas Fandom members in general. There are surely people out there who have done more heinous acts than just making strange crossover videos, who deserve the hate John gets. I've seen some people say he's to the Thomas Fandom what Chris Chan is to the Sonic Fandom. And let's be real, Trainboy54 is a freaking saint compared to Chris Chan, as John hasn't committed any actual, felonies? And if I'm honest, John's content quality isn't really that different from other stuff Thomas and Friends fans like Ramafool or Thomas Wooden Railway cook up, as they share similar formats with editing styles with episodes or recreations. Heck, crossover stuff is still being made by the fandom today, like with the Crotunia series, which combined Thomas meeting up with characters from different talking vehicle franchises. But I think those guys got off scot-free not just because they were written better, but because all three had slow beginnings with low quality that gradually improved with better editing and camera quality over the years. And John getting stuck in the past as this ancient relic that barely changed made them an easy punching bag today. Yet, as much as people dislike the dude, John doing the same editing styles as before may seem counterintuitive, but I feel like it shows how dedicated he is to his interests and the past. Intentional or not, Trainboy54 continues to be a relic of that era. And I'm okay with that. In a world of above average and beyond content in the Thomas fanbase or otherwise, like I said before, John feels like a symbol of a bygone era. Something we forgot about and made fun of, but a thing that we could see now as a symbol of what led up to the present day. And the biggest twist of the whole video that I wanted to bring up and was hiding for a long time is that Trainboy54 is actually one of the reasons I got into YouTube in the first place. You already know from my Transformers video that I grew up on Leo Kim Video and James Farr. But one thing I intentionally left out was that Trainboy54 was the first popular Thomas YouTuber I watched back in early 2010. As a young boy growing up with both Phineas and Ferb and Thomas, it was the perfect channel for me. I had fun. It was weird now for sure, but I still have a ton of fond memories from watching some dude play with toy trains in an old cellar. This guy right here made me want to collect toys, which is something I still do to this day. A thing I'm still proud of doing with a ton of stuff to boot, as you can see right here. I got so much inspired by him and other YouTubers that I actually tried a YouTube channel called Wakster, which was super unpopular. But that experience gave me a glimpse of what I could have done. Now, here I am, a young adult, making YouTube videos on topics ranging from obscure action cartoons from a decade and a half ago that deserve way more attention, or Thomas adjacent works that are either really underrated and underappreciated, or just plain awful. Creating this very video right here made me realize I should thank Trainboy54 for making me who I am today. Whether it be me making silly retrospectives or some art here and there, I am proud that I finally got what I dreamed of from when I was 5. And in a weird way of going full circle, because I make content on both talking vehicle stuff with a few fan content related to Disney TVA shows, I guess you could consider me this generation's Trainboy54. But what I can learn from John is A, be yourself and make what you want, and B, always learn to chain things up in quality slowly, because I want to improve my content style at some point in the future before I get the same accusations. So to cap things off, John McDowell, I wholeheartedly and sincerely thank you for being one of the reasons I even got into YouTube. For every weird video, petty drama, or outdated and forgotten statements you made, I will admit, you aren't a bad guy compared to what everybody else thinks. Despite talking about your past that you probably want to forget, I am forever grateful for you opening the door, for making me realize that anybody in the world, regardless of skill set, can make a YouTube video, even if it isn't the best. So, thank you for not just making me get that childhood dream that I eventually carried out today in the present, but for helping me realize how far I've come from being an onlooker of niche internet videos to actually making niche internet videos of my own. And with that said, this has been Wakster. Ring, like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly of all, stay wacky! Wait, come on! I was gonna finish that. Where's that darn generator? This looks suspiciously new. Whatever. He's Phineas and Ferb's best friend, you know. All their other friends, well, they'll tell you so. He helps them with whatever they want to do today. He's a friend to all of us we adore. He's the best. He's the best. He's a friend to all of us that we adore. He's the best. He's their best friend. Trainboy54. Finally, I can do the City Trams video. Finally, a Thomas Fandom thingy that isn't controversial.
Hello Wax World.
Okay, who turned off my power?
I am the program who shut down your studio's power.
Why did you shut down the power? That was like the end of the video. You kinda ruined it, man.
It is because I am impatient with you.
What did I do again?
You haven't made the video on glitch text yet.
I mean, I like glitch text, but I'm sorry, I've been very busy with other stuff. But I'm not sure if I want to do it.
You promised you would do it in the Mighty Express and Transformers videos. And it is the end of Season 2 yet you failed to deliver on your promises.
Okay, fine, I'll do it for the first video of Season 3.
If you do the video for Season 3 I will stop interrupting your electrical systems. Understood?
Okay, goodbye, mysterious program or whatever your name is. I don't know.
I await your video on the overlooked Nicktoon. Thank you.